Sun Lis. Born at an unknown date in Rongcheng County, Sun Lis was a military general and politician who served the Kingdom of Wei. His character is described as loyal, generous and brave, whilst his career was a reasonably successful one. He held titles ranging from colonel of the city gates to ministers, governors and inspector roles. At a young age, Sun Lis helped support his mother by working for a corrupt individual in harsh conditions. He spent his free time with his friend Liu Yu, who he was often compared with in his later years, as they were born in the same town and earned similar fame. When Cao Cao arrived and pacified Yu province, Sun Lis was summoned and by law detained for inspection, where he became separated from his mother. A local man named Ma Tai found and provided shelter for Sun Lis's mother, so he thanked him by giving him their entire family's wealth. When Cao Cao's men arrived to detain Sun Lis, he did not resist arrest and stated, "A vassal does not have the honour of escape." He was only imprisoned for a short while, whilst the treachery registrar Wen Hui, who was impressed with Sun Lis's words, spoke to Cao Cao about him, who then released him and had him recruited. Sun Lis encountered Ma Tai again, but this time he was imprisoned and soon to face the death penalty. Sun Lis secretly released Ma Tai and gave him means to escape, but refused to do so himself. Sun Lis then went to meet with Wen Hui and owned up to his actions with complete transparency. Wen Hui analysed the situation carefully before meeting with Cao Cao, where they were both once again so impressed with Sun Lis's honesty that they exonerated him and Ma Tai from execution. He found some successes in his first few military encounters. He was sent to deal with some bandits 100 men strong, who were causing trouble for the locals from their defensive position in the mountains. Sun Lis offered his entire salary out as rewards for severed bandit heads. This worked very well, as the people soon took the threat into their own hands. Sun Lis then contacted the bandit leaders for terms of surrender, and soon the area was at peace. Towards the end of Cao Cao's life in 220, whilst he appointed Tao Shuang as general-in-chief, he asked that Sun Lis is treated well, as he wanted Tao Shuang to have honest advisors, and for those advisors to be loyal to him. Sun Lis successfully administrated in 4 different counties before advising Tao Shou in the year 228 about the Battle of Shiting. Sun Lis spoke up as he believed their army wasn't strong enough to break through the Wu defences. Tao Shou ignored his advice and attacked anyway, but they suffered a defeat and withdrew. During the battle, some of Chuan Kong's massive Wu army arrived to where Sun Lis was stationed to invade and plunder. As the armies were away, Sun Lis personally rallied the guards to the defence of the city, where they fought day and night. During the fray, Sun Lis's horse was wounded several times, and he resorted to beating the drum himself, as half the guards were killed in action, but they eventually found victory. Sun Lis was rewarded from the imperial court for his actions, but he spent his time weeping for the dead, and gave all of the fabric rewarded to him to the families of the deceased. After this, Sun Lis was reassigned as the administrator of Yangping. The Wei Emperor, Tao Rui, had ordered the repair of palaces and residences in the realm, but Sun Lis knew that this would be a strain on his people and his township's resources, and so strongly objected to the order. He went to the worksite personally and halted the construction workers. An imperial letter soon arrived. He read it out to his workforce, which said, "Respectfully accepting your honest words, quickly stop the people from construction." It turns out the emperor was impressed with Sun Lis's honesty and so didn't blame him for how he acted. Sun Lis was one of the rare few who acted as Tao Rui's attendants. He stood out because he would warn Tao Rui bluntly and speak his mind regardless if it caused offence, which Tao Rui came to deeply admire. On one occasion, Tao Rui was out hunting one day when a tiger appeared. Sun Lis used a whip to try scare it off, but his horse dismounted him instead. He went to draw his sword to chase the beast away, but was ordered to stop and remount by Tao Rui, who feared the animal would prove too much for him. Sun Lis spent the next few years as the inspector of Jing province, until tribal rebellions broke out in the northwest. The Xiongnu and Xianbei tribes were causing trouble on the border of Liang. It had been an ongoing problem for 8 years, and in past generations, only a few had managed to settle the land disputes of the region. The trouble lies with the vast plains and deserts in the region, where it is difficult to clarify the borders for each tribe. Sima Yi mentioned that now it is Sun Lis's responsibility to resolve. They discussed the matter. First, they thought about asking the elders of the tribes for their knowledge of the borders that once existed years ago. This idea was soon dismissed, as their elders' point of view could not be verified easily. Another idea was to use the cemeteries and burial grounds as reference points for each tribe, but they also could have been moved for various reasons, and so could not be wholly trusted. To resolve the matter, Sun Lis asked for an old map of the region that marked the borders, then set out towards Liang, stating, "Why should we wait until reaching the province before making our decision?" A reference to how the map already had the answers that they wanted. Sima Yi deeply agreed to this idea and saw him off. Sun Lis arrived at the plains and met with Tao Shuang. He laid out a map and marked the plans to divide the region up, but Tao Shuang was in disagreement. He argued that the map was outdated and that Sun Lis should refer to the updated version before making his decisions. Tao Shuang favoured a tribal chieftain's words over Sun Lis and his map. Sun Lis was outraged, as he felt this continuous back and forth was pointless. 8 years of arguing could be resolved in one morning, if only the tribal leaders would compromise for peace. Here was a map with clearly marked borders along the rivers to divvy up the region fairly, but the fact it was disregarded meant he felt like his efforts had been wasted. Sun Lis then quoted 3 separate idioms that described situations where lies were repeated so much that they became truth, before preparing to leave the area and head home. Sun Lis was sincerely upset that he could not complete his appointment, and he was undermined by Tao Shuang. Tao Shuang in turn became angry at Sun Lis and had him impeached for 5 years to spend at home. During that time, Sun Lis's point of view on the border disputes grew to be believed by almost all the common folk, so they vouched to have him reinstated as a city gate colonel. As time passed, the Xiongnu tribes flourished with troops and supplies, whilst the Xianbei tribes grew in strength by repeatedly plundering the border. Sun Lis's impeachment period came to an end, so he was sent to be an inspector of Bing province, but first he arrived to meet Sima Yi to receive his title, but was very quiet and had an angry look on his face. Sima Yi pondered why Sun Lis was upset after receiving Bing province, sarcastically asking him, "Is it little? Or are you upset that you lost the border dispute? You are about to go far away and leave. Why should you be displeased?" Sun Lis rebutted this by stating how he may not necessarily be a virtuous man, but at the same time he is not swayed by official rank and title so easily. He went on to say he only wants to support the Wei clan, that he would rather repay Cao Cao's trust than to establish an achievement that lasts 10,000 ages. Sun Lis was upset that the state is now in danger, when he could have resolved it and said, "The realm under heaven is disturbed, this is why I am not pleased." Tao Shuang was executed by Sima Yi in the year 249, whereafter Sun Lis's career grew until he oversaw 7 prefectures and 5 provinces, whilst his authority and trust from the people also increased. He eventually earned a marquisate of 100 households, and it was in this period of his life that he was compared to his childhood friend, Liu Yu, as they both had a similar number of dishonourable and honourable deeds to their name, whilst sharing the same hometown. Sun Lis passed away sometime in between the 11th of December 250 and the 9th of January 251. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.